because there's one driver that we haven't mentioned at all, who is arguably amongst the greatest of all time, and that's Sterling Moss.
I know. It's just it's hard to, because he never won a title. It's so hard to. Now, if we're talking overall race, the career, that's a whole different thing. That's where Mario Andretti is in my top 10. If you talk total overall greatest drivers, Formula One statistics, he doesn't have enough to come in these categories for sure. But overall, yeah. So I think Moss, if you start talking about the Mille Miglia and all the other things he did, yeah, well, now that's a different category. But I don't know how you would be able to rank all those different styles of racing into one. At least with Formula One, you can kind of categorize it and compartmentalize the statistics better.
Did Graham Hill win the '64 championship in your
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, not John Surtees.
No.
But then again, you see, I would have given. There's an argument for giving the '66 championship to John Surtees because he would have walked it had he stayed at Ferrari.
There's so many things that, of course, happened back in those days, and the reliability just throws a massive monkey wrench into all the data. But like you said, the competition back then with Dan Gurney and then Jackie Stewart coming up and Graham Hill and Brown, it's incredible how many drivers back then. You look now and there's a lot of good drivers to really good drivers, but it's not the 60s there. I mean, certainly it gets complicated if someone says, well, the way he drove, that's why his engine broke on lap 45 because of the way he drove. There can be that area, but for someone like Clark, I'm always going to give him the benefit of the doubt because everybody I've ever talked to said he drove it so smooth. He babied the car, he babied the tires, so he was not going to break the car in the way he drove. As much as I love Senna, I could see where Senna might break a car because he drives the crap out of it. But there's no way, the way Clark drove that car, that's why it broke. It's like I can't imagine that would be the case. And those cars were so brittle, right? The Lotus is so brittle for the weight and everything else.
And is it an optical illusion, or is there not much Alan Prost in any of this either?
Not this. He doesn't quite get to the level of these guys. He's got his 4 titles,
which is a surprise.
Yeah, I know. It's fun when there are surprises like that, and then again with the eye test and different things, like, wait a minute, that actually matches out, and then other things you go, that doesn't. But the thing that just keeps coming back is Clark keeps coming to the top, no matter what you do. And it's so great for young people watching. They say, but he had 2 titles. How could he be that good? He only had 2 titles. You got to study all the races. Then you realize it. Same with Ascari. You ask Mario Andretti, who's your hero? Every time it's Ascari. And you look at those couple of seasons he lived, and you say, God, if he lived, what would he have done? And it's tough to know. I just made these charts, going back to Max, which we're kind of talking about here, where the chart on the left is just race by race, and Max is here right in the middle of the path of all these other legends. But what's scary for everyone else is over here on the right. This is Max. Well, these are podiums. This is Max and his podiums versus everyone else by age, and that's scary. Looking at where he already is in comparison to other drivers going by age. But he's going to have to keep it up. If people are sick of Max's dominance, they better not be, because he'd have to keep on this for a long while if he's going to catch Lewis's numbers. And I think, but by all accounts, from what I've talked to him, other people have talked to him, he wants to do other things. And I want to see that. I want to have like a Mario Andretti, a Mark Donohue of today, where Max is like, okay, I got 5 championships. I got enough wins. Now I'm going to go do Le Mans. I'm going to do IndyCar. I don't know, other stuff. Go do other things. And because if you're going to be the greatest driver of all time, for me, I got to see you do other things. I can't just see you have the best statistics in Formula One. I want to see other stuff, and he wants to do that. There's no doubt. So that could be fun for the future. So these are total wins by race number. Scary for Hamilton fans. Max is caught up. He's right there, race by race. And on the right, it's by age. And again, Max is just so far ahead by age, but even by races, he's caught up right there, right on track with Hamilton. Of course, next year is going to be very tough. I mean, how many wins is he going to get next year? But everybody's excited about what we could do next year. But these are just charts of by race and by age. Prost over here. Yeah, of course, Peter, you know this last chunk over here is Prost's 93 season where he had that
Yeah.
Williams. This is just it by numbers, kind of Max versus Hamilton. This is for younger fans that have only watched Formula One the past 15 years or so. You know, first 10 years, pretty similar, though Max not as good at poles. Hamilton, definitely quicker on the qualifying. But, you know, I put years of dominant car to make sure that you keep that into account. First 208 races, and then by 26 years old, there it is. But it's so interesting here. In the first 208 races, basically the same amount of wins.
Yeah.
Hamilton, way more poles, but similar on podiums. And, you know, four titles, because for me, he deserved 07. But, you know, very similar going through there.
But this is an interesting one. This is teammate, right?
Yes. And I mean, I put 1.5 of 8 for Clark here because 1960, yeah, he loses to Ireland, but he didn't compete in all the races. So he had half the points of Ireland, but he missed out on the first 3 races, I think it was. 61, he did lose for sure to Ireland. So you could say 1 of 7 if really you wanted. But, you know, Hamilton's lost 4 times in his 18 seasons, but Verstappen has yet to lose, and Schumacher never lost to his teammate.
But you're talking about for what, the qualifying racing championship?
No, just points at the end of the season.
Points, okay.
Yeah, at the end of the season. See, this is where Mansell fails, as does Lauda and Brabham. That they fail miserably in this category.
Yeah, but different circumstances in all 3, aren't they? I mean, Nicky was possibly relatively straightforward. Jack, yeah, I mean, Jack had a period where he missed races, he got injured, didn't he? And then just unreliability. And Nigel was never really out-qualified by a teammate when he was in equal cars. And whenever he was out-qualified, it was usually because there was an issue with his car. That's the problem with this. Not the problem, but that should always be borne in mind.
Yeah. Well, again, this is why racing stats they're so hard because there's so many different factors that are involved. It's so much more difficult than you know, the usual sports people talk about. This is the whole team, a pit stop. This happened. I mean, you know, the Ferrari pit stop with Prost. I think you were in the pits, I think.
But I think if you wanted to be really objective, you could say that Verstappen has had the best possible teammate for all of the statistics and for his own career, because Perez is quick enough to win races, quick enough to get poles. Has he had a pole, Perez? I guess he has some point.
Yeah, not this year.
Quick enough to get poles, and yet nothing like good enough ever to beat Max Verstappen in equal race cars.
I mean, I always wish Ricciardo stayed because I was always a huge Ricciardo fan, and you know, could be right with him in those early stages. And I was like, what would Ricciardo have done? And they got along so well. There was no bad blood between them. They loved hanging out with each other. They still do. I says, why didn't he stay there? It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Even if he played second fiddle to Max, I mean, he would have won a ton of races, even playing second fiddle. So, but no, it's a sad, because Daniel, I mean, man, at his best, he could pass as good as anybody, and it's just sad. This is just a little random thing I threw up for fun, because it comes out with a different result. Random different categories of things, at least 2 titles, at least 4 titles. Ascari, I have a box here because he didn't live long enough. 30% wins, 40% wins. Different categories of that. And Fangio blows everybody away in this. Just like earning a medal for each one of these different things. Schumacher does well. Max does well. Just a different random thing I threw up, again, for fun. I say, well, who comes out on this? Fangio.
Yeah, except that winning with different teams isn't necessarily a good thing, because you could say one of the reasons Fangio won so many championships and races is that at that time, it wasn't difficult, if you're as good as Fangio, just to hop from one car to the next, whoever happened to have the quick car at the time. Whereas the loyalty of Jim Clark or Mika Hakkinen was never really repaid, because Lotus obviously had bad years and McLaren had bad years.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a quality, I don't think. but he won.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up for that period of time. Because I feel like in the modern era, we always look at in all sports, like, can you go to another team and replicate what you did in that team? Kind of like what Rossi did when he switched to Yamaha from Honda, or when Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Bucks, leaving the Patriots and won the first season. But you're right. In that era, if you could tell the other car was going to be much better, you could say, well, I'm Fangio. I want to drive that car. I want to drive that car.
Well, yeah, I mean, he left Ferrari in 56 because he knew the Maserati 250F would be a quicker car in 57, and he preferred the team. So he went there and won the championship with them.
Right.
He would have won the championship had he stayed at Ferrari in 57.
No. Well, it's just because there's so many different people. I mean, you look at what Schumacher did when he leaves Benetton, he goes to Ferrari, it takes years, he's got to build it, and then he wins a Ferrari. It's like that's a positive in his crown to do that. And what Vettel couldn't do, what he tried to do and couldn't do. And Hamilton leaving McLaren, going to Mercedes, bringing it up, getting the team go, and then creates the most dominant period in F1 history. So I always thought of it as a positive until you're saying it now. It's like, well, in that particular case, it might actually not be a positive. So in talking, where do I put Max currently in F1 history? Again, overall, when you're talking drivers, it's a totally different list. It's like, there's no way I can put Max Verstappen ahead of Richard Petty. I don't care that Richard Petty only drove a NASCAR. 200 wins, 7 titles. Like, I got to see more. So Max is certainly not in that upper area. He's trending towards like top 5 level, yes, but he's got to get there. You can't just be great 1 year and 2 years. You have to do it over a long period of time. We have this battle all the time with football in America of people keep wanting to anoint Patrick Mahomes as already the best. It's like he's got a long way to go before he can get to Brady. So I always have, Ascari and Nuvolari. They're kind of, in their own little area because we just didn't see enough of them. So that it's like they're out of the conversation, but they're always there, kind of looking down on the conversation. But for me, I think, like we've talked about, no matter what data you come by, no matter what statistics you do, Clark always comes out seemingly on top. So he's okay. So he's here, and you could have a 1A, 1B category where many of the statistics as well, what Fangio did in his period, and the best percentages of all time with wins, poles, everything else. He always won the championship seemingly. He has the historic drive, that 57 German Grand Prix, where he doesn't even know how, he said, I don't even know how I drove that fast. Yeah, there's Fangio, you could make an argument. And for me, yes, I've always been a Senna fan, but there's a reason. It's like, if my life's on the line and I have to start 20th and win the race, if there's any driver I can choose in the history of the world, I'm choosing Senna. Who's going to make the most insane passes? Who's going to dive bomb, whatever he's going to do? It's Senna. And he was the quickest driver. And there's just so many things. He had some of the most magical drives. There's so many to choose from. So I feel like, for most people, you want to put any of these 3 drivers as your GOAT, you can make a discussion about it. Then I feel that the next tier right down from there is Hamilton and Schumacher, but in no world could you ever say Schumacher is better than Hamilton. I don't think there's any way. Schumacher has 90 wins, Hamilton's got 100 wins. Schumacher had 68 poles, Hamilton's got the 100. Schumacher had 7 titles. Lewis almost has 10 titles. So I don't think, there's no way you could, even as someone that was a big Schumacher fan, there's no way I could ever say that Schumacher is better than Hamilton. But I feel like these guys are just not quite, at least for me, in these guys' category. So I think like the top 5 are these guys for sure. But I kind of, I'd say it's Clark, Fangio, Senna, Hamilton, Schumacher is kind of how I put it. Everybody's going to have their opinion. But I feel like those 5 guys are just, they're in their own category. Now, okay, you put Max next to these other guys. For me, I'm more impressed by Max already than all of them. I mean, you tell me, Peter, where do you put him?
The only one of that, the 2 of that, I would say Nigel and Stewart. Nigel, because it's a difficult one for you statistically, because he really only had a great car in 92. He had a
Right.
good car in 86, 87. It's only, so that's 3 years really. The Ferrari was never reliable enough, or indeed
Right.
enough to be in that same category. So this is a guy that raced from 85, sorry, from 80 through to 92, but in only 3 of those years was he actually able to win races. I know he did in a Ferrari, but let's exclude that. So it's difficult, all those years when he had an uncompetitive car and he was against really quick teammates as well. It's difficult, but this is the eye stat thing. For me,
Right.
Nigel was very, very good. But if you exclude him, I'd still say you've got to bring Jackie Stewart into play because of the era in which he raced and
Right.
the things he did, a little bit like Michael, starting his own team with Ken Tyrrell in effect, and immediately winning world championships with it, which was just incredible, really.
Well, I mean, whenever I do these, if I go to number 6, Jackie Stewart is always my number 6. That's always how I've put it. And with what Jack Brabham did, winning 3 or 4 titles and winning in his own, he's like right there as well.
Yeah,
So
because arguably Cooper would never have been as competitive as they were over those 2 years, 59 and 60, but for Jack. And I mean Jack's engineering input here, not only his driving skill. So, he should take almost championship credit for the Cooper wins as well.
no, so I mean, wherever people put them, the thing is, wherever you place them, if people say, "Oh, well, Cory, you're being too high on Max, too much hyperbole," I say, "Well, not really, because I still think there's a gap here. Even if Max, we have this amazing championship next year, and Max has to drive his best, and it's this tight championship that comes down to the end, last 2 races or so." And, he wins 8 races with 7 poles and wins this incredible title. Now he's got 2 tight clutch championships as part of his 5. He has 70 plus wins. He has 50 plus poles. I still think he's maybe only sniffing Schumacher in 5th, even with that added to his title, to his whole career. I still think, okay, well, now you're sniffing Schumacher for 5th. So, because I mean, this is the beauty of long-term statistics. You want to protect this. You don't want to just, oh, this guy's great. He's in the top. He's in one of the greatest of all time. No, it's got to be hard. It can't be easy. And of course, like we talked about earlier, yeah, it's much safer today. You can take dangerous things and do. You're not probably going to die in these cars. Where Jackie Stewart and Jim Clark and Fangio, they knew they could die in any minute. So, there's still, I feel like there's still a gap here that Max has to acquire. And then this is just Formula One history. So, in one way, it's what Max is doing, yes, is right in line with the greatest things we've ever seen. And I hope people understand how insane this is of what he has been doing. But on the other hand, if you're a huge Max fan, it's not like, oh, well, he's already arguably the greatest ever. It's like, no, he's still got a mountain to climb here. It's a big mountain. It's a very big mountain to climb. But also, like we talked about, I want to see him do. I don't care. I don't want to see him have 100 wins, 100 poles, and 7 championships. I want to see him be happy with whatever he gets, and then while he's still young and has all the talent, go win other things. Go do what drivers used to do, like Clark and Andretti and Mark Donohue and them. I want to see that. It'd be fun. And plus it'd bring eyeballs to other parts of the racing world that don't get enough eyeballs.
And Dan Gurney, let's not forget Dan.
Yeah, and Dan Gurney, yes, exactly. AJ Foyt. I mean, my God, what did AJ Foyt not win? It's insane what he won. And actually, just to say, interesting in conversations I've had with Max, for those that don't know, yes, I'm an accordionist. I have 3 world titles, not 4. I need to go and win another one now to catch up with Max. But I'm more known for improvisation and really fast-paced improvisation. And in a conversation I had with Max right after, if you remember, he passed Kimi Räikkönen at turn 17 at the U.S. Grand Prix to take 3rd place, and then they knocked him back because he went over the line. But I was still so amazed by that pass. That's a pass I may have made once in a video game, and he did it in real life. And I said, how did you even think to do that? Because that's a video game move. And he said, I didn't. He said, just like when you're improvising really fast on your accordion, he said, I don't think, I just did it. It's amazing that it ties into all the best musicians I've ever worked with, where after it happens, they can go back and explain exactly why they played every note in that line. But in the moment, they can't tell you. It just happens naturally from years and years of practice and preparation. And that's the thing for people, whatever they're doing in their career, if they get mad at people that are so naturally talented. Well, but there's still so much practice and so much preparation so that you can make an instinctual move at lightning speed. That comes from years of practice and preparation. And that's, you know, that's the beauty of racing.